Afternoon, I'm proud to be joined by Senators Stabenow, Tester, and Murphy. So once again, the Senate is having a very, very productive week. We're continuing to confirm President Biden's qualified nominees. We've confirmed more than 65 qualified judicial nominees to the federal bench, including Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yay! Come on, press. No. Yeah, I'm just learning all about it. The first, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court. We're on track to pass a life-changing burn pits bill to help our veterans. You'll hear from Senator Tester on that. Over the last 2 decades, 3.5 million service members were exposed to dangerous chemicals while in the line of duty, while risking their lives for us. The bill has been led by Chairman Tester and Ranking Member Moran. It's going to help make sure our veterans get the health benefits they've earned to treat complications from toxic exposures. Yesterday we invoked cloture, as you may have seen, and it passed with very strong bipartisan support, 78-17. Also, the Senate is working on something not seen since the time we passed the Brady bill, which I authored 28 years ago. What we're seeing again, finally, is a bipartisan effort to draft meaningful gun legislation. Just remember, this agreement would enhance background checks for those under 21, help states with their red flag laws, preventing shootings before they happen, would make it harder for domestic abusers to acquire a weapon by closing the boyfriend loophole. It provides much-needed funding for mental health services and creates stiffer penalties on gun trafficking. The agreement was something many believed was not possible just a few weeks ago. But Democrats and a good number of Republicans said we'd have to try, and so did all the gun groups. Senator Murphy and I, before we started, called up the gun safety groups, and they said, if you can get something, get it done. That would be a lot better than a vote of everything we wanted that would fail once again. And so with the Sunday announcement for gun legislation, led by Senators Murphy, Sinema, Cornyn, and Tillis, we're closer to enacting safety reform than we have in a long time. And we still have a lot of work to do, but the drafting process is moving forward. We all know that between a framework and a draft is a lot of work and potential pitfalls. But I spoke to Senator Cornyn this morning and Senator Murphy, and both have a great desire to move as quickly as we can, and that is my desire as well. And as I mentioned over and over again, I'll put it on the floor as quickly as soon as we get the draft completed to get it to the President's desk quickly. Now, let me just mention the bills are a continuation of an already productive Congress. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Plan, the Anti-Asian Hate Crimes Bill, the Water Infrastructure Bill, Postal Reform, VAWA, ending forced arbitration for sexual harassment, anti-lynching, Senate-passed USICA, and ocean shipping reform. And I just want to say that ocean shipping, everyone's talking about high costs, as they should. The ocean shipping reform is going to do a lot to reduce costs. So much it costs 1,000% more to ship a container across the Pacific now than it did a year ago. And those costs are being paid for by American consumers. So this is a very important bill. It's headed to the President's desk. It did not, members of the Fourth Estate, get much coverage because there wasn't much conflict. But in terms between Democrats and Republicans, Senators Klobuchar and Thune, and led by Senator Cantwell in Commerce, did a great job getting this done. But it's going to have a huge effect, very significant effect. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Schumer. First, I just have to say that to respond to one of our oil and gas enthusiastic Republican senators who just said something about buying an electric vehicle, I got to tell you, we have great new Michigan electric vehicles. My Chevy Bolt is terrific, made at the Lake Orion plant in Michigan, affordable, union labor, and I'm so proud to have an opportunity to be able to support Michigan workers. What he was doing and others are doing is trying to divert us from the fact that we have gas gouging at the pump. and have had it for some time. My Policy and Communications Committee put out a report a couple of months ago about the fact that last year the top oil and gas companies made $237 billion in profits, and yet they continue to gouge us at the pump. So we would love to have Republican colleagues working with us on that rather than accepting oil and gas money to fund their campaigns. Let me talk about something that is bipartisan and that I'm just so grateful to be a part of. And I want to thank Senator Schumer, and I want to thank Senator Murphy and everyone who has been involved in the effort to take really important steps forward on gun safety and on mental health and addiction services. 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed a bill. It was the last law he ever signed, ever, because he was shot, was the Community Mental Health Act. It was never fully implemented until now, at this moment. Quality, standards, comprehensive community services, and communities across the country will be available, and we will be structuring it like we do for physical health care. So for the first time, mental health and addiction will be a part of health care, funding health care above the neck, the same as health care below the neck. Now let me say that in the context of this bill and the importance around gun violence, more than half of all gun deaths are suicides, which are going to be addressed in terms of support for people in the community, but also the red flag laws that I'm sure Senator Murphy will talk about allow families to be able to step up and support and protect someone who may be in that situation. We know that 1 out of 5 people in our country will have a mental illness in their lifetime. They are certainly more likely to be a victim of violence than perpetrate it. But we also know this: anyone who can pick up an AR-15 and go in to a mass shooting situation of gunning down children in a school, obviously is somebody who has serious issues. So this is an important time for us to take meaningful steps forward on gun safety, and it is a very meaningful time to do transformative work for people across the country as it relates to mental health and addiction services. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Tester.
Well, I'm here to talk about the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson PACT Act, or the Toxic Exposure Bill. For those folks that have been covering this bill, you know what it does, but very briefly, I will just tell you that it offers health care and benefits for up to 3.5 million toxic exposed veterans in this nation. It sets up a structure for the VA to be able to deal with toxic exposures in upcoming conflicts, because we've had toxic exposures in every conflict from World War I on. And it's always taken an act of Congress to get the folks that have served this country the benefits that they've earned. This bill fixes that. And the last thing it does, generally speaking, is it helps the VA build capacity so that it can serve the veterans that it needs to serve. This bill fulfills a promise that we as a nation make to the men and women who serve in our military. And that promise is when they come back home and they get injured, that we will try to make them whole again. We've never done that well on toxic exposure. When we get this bill passed, and I believe we hopefully will get it done very, very soon, because of good votes that the leader talked about, but when we get this bill passed, we will have shown the fighting men and women who serve in our military and serve around the world that this country not only appreciates them, but will live up to our end of the bargain.
Thank you, Senator Tester and Senator Murphy. And let me just say, in each of these areas, Senator Murphy has done a fabulous job on the guns legislation, along with Senator Sinema and many others. Senator Tester did an amazing job on the PAC bill, and Senator Stabenow has succeeded, or on the verge of succeeding, in getting real funding for her lifelong passion, dealing with mental illness. So we have a real team of all-stars here.
Thank you very much, Senator Schumer, and I want to thank you for believing that a bipartisan compromise on guns was possible, despite 28 years of evidence to the contrary. I'm really grateful to Senator Cornyn and Senator Tillis, Senator Sinema, and then the broader members of our group of 12 Republicans and Democrats that worked for the last 3 weeks to achieve a breakthrough. And there's no doubt that our framework is a breakthrough. It's not a coincidence that this Congress for 30 years couldn't deal with the epidemic of gun violence in this country, because over and over again it was easier to retreat to political corners than to make tough compromise. And while I do see this as a breakthrough, the bill in and of itself is going to save thousands of lives. I have no doubt about that. Between helping states adopt red flag laws, closing the boyfriend loophole, requiring a more rigorous check before young buyers can purchase weapons, and creating new tools for law enforcement to go after gun trafficking rings, this bill, even if we never pass another anti-gun violence bill, is going to make an enormous difference on the rates of violence in this country. And I'm grateful to Senator Stabenow and others who have made sure that attached to the gun provisions in this bill will be a historic and significant investment in mental health spending. That investment alone will save thousands of lives as well. We are right now in the process of drafting this legislation, but the heavy lifting is done. All we're doing now is taking a framework and putting it into legislative text, and I'm confident that we can get there and get there soon. Lastly, I think the reason why we were able to get this done is because democracy worked as it was intended. Parents and kids and families, coming on the heels of 2 devastating tragedies, were more fearful and more anxious than ever before, not just about their kids' safety, but about the fact that democracy couldn't deliver. And so, to me, what we've done here, if we get this passed, and I believe we will, isn't just about keeping kids safe. It's about responding to people's concerns that democracy can't live up to the moment. And this time, at least, we have. So, again, very grateful to all of our partners and Senator Schumer for giving us the space to get to this point, and I'm confident that we're going to be able to get this passed through the United States Senate, the House of Representatives, get it to the President's desk.
Thank you, Senator Murphy. Yes, ma'am. Well, look, let me say this. When young men and young women volunteer and are sent into war, and they get injured, that's a price of going into war. And it's a tradition in this country to make sure that we give them the health care that they need, because they've put their lives on the line for us. So I think this is something that Congress and the American people would want to pay for.
The administration's been asking for months for another COVID relief bill, testing, vaccines, that sort of thing. Can you give us an update on those negotiations?
Yeah, look, I have felt it's very important to get a COVID relief bill, and we're going to try to do everything we can. Here in the Senate, as you know, we passed our bill. The House didn't. So we're still awaiting the House and seeing what they are going to do. Now let Manu go. Yeah.
The president is meeting with Mohammed bin Salman. In light of the human rights concerns and his apparent role in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, do you think that's an appropriate move for the president to do?
This president, unlike the previous president, is not afraid to talk tough with foreign leaders. So I have every confidence that that President Biden will handle this very well.
But the White House is calling him out for the murders.
Go ahead. Well, look, we want to pass it before recess, and we're going to do everything we can. As I mentioned, Senator Murphy and Senator Cornyn and the drafters are working real hard and have every intention of trying to get it done. Yes, go ahead. I didn't mean to skip you over.
The Israeli defense minister said yesterday, and I quote, in the face of Iranian belligerence, what is needed is not just cooperation, but also a regional force buildup with American leadership. Do you think the U.S. Senate would support the idea of a NATO military alliance with Saudi Arabia and Israel against the Iranian?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Senate. I'd have to look at the ramifications of that. I couldn't answer that now. Yes.
Senator, the Second Amendment gives people the right to keep and bear arms. Do you think the Constitution should be amended to remove it?
No, I think this. No amendment is absolute. You can't falsely scream fire in a crowded theater. We have anti-pornography laws directed at children. We have libel laws. Those are all limitations on the First Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe there's a right to bear arms, but there are reasonable limitations. The Brady Law, the assault weapon ban, among them. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.